Yeah.
Hey, so you mentioned Joe Rogan earlier. What are your thoughts on the whole thing that's going down with him? And
the N-word stuff
have you listened to any of his podcasts at all?
Yeah, I used to listen to Joe Rogan. Not like religiously. I was never one of those guys who's like, fucking Rogan, bro.
Yeah.
But I listened to him, and I liked him as a comedian. He's a really good fight analyst. You know, he's a lifelong martial artist. He knows a lot about it. But I used to listen or watch his podcast because he would bring scientists on and just talk to them, and it would blow my fucking mind. I was like, holy shit, like I can just listen to scientists talk about shit in a way that, because they're trying to make it accessible for him to understand, and he doesn't know anything. So they would speak in a way that like I could fucking understand.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And at that time, this like a few years back, my view on Rogan was like, oh, I don't agree with everything he says, and he can be kind of like a meathead, but he was always very willing to be like, oh, I don't know what the answer of this is, so let me talk to somebody who does. And then if he was wrong, he would immediately like, oh, okay, well, let me change my idea.
Yeah, let me reassess. Yeah.
So he was very like, I was like, wow, this guy is really impressive in that he will openly admit he doesn't know things and then change his opinions based on what facts and evidence. And like I said, he would get a little broy and meatheady with some guests, and I wouldn't listen to those episodes because it didn't do anything for me. And then I remember he started doing, and I was also very impressed. Like he put all of his friends on, like all these other comedians, Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer, fucking to some extent Bill Burr. Bill Burr was doing his own thing anyway, but like Ari Shaffir, who's not funny, and a bunch of other people, Brendan Shaw, Brian Callen. He put all of his friends on and made all of them successful. And I was like, wow, that's like, what a great guy.
Like Adam Sandler in a sense.
Yeah,
you know?
totally like Adam Sandler. Like, wow, how generous he is, like making sure his friends get successful. And I was like, that's fucking rad. And then, so a few years ago, him, because he's like a lifelong martial artist. He's fucking jacked. He takes steroids and HGH. He's all fucking cut up. He's open about that too. He does. Him, this other comedian, Ari Shaffir, who's wildly unfunny. Another comedian, Tom Segura, who's super funny. And then this other comedian, Bert Kreischer, is also funny. Tom and Bert are super fat. And they started doing this thing called Sober October, where they would, for a month, not drink, smoke, anything. And they would do like a fitness challenge. And they initially started doing it for Bert, who was like a dangerous alcoholic. Like it's too much.
Yeah.
They started doing it for him. And the first year it went really well. They were inspiring people. They had a great time. And then I think maybe the second year or the third year, I don't remember. Ari Shaffir didn't like it, didn't want to do it. And he went to Bert's house before the month started. He went to Bert's house and dosed him unknowing with, fuck, I forgot. Was it Molly?
Oh shit.
Yeah.
He roofied him.
He roofied him. Let me see real quick just so I can get it right. Bert Kreischer, Ari Shaffir. I think it was Molly. Yeah. He put Molly in his drink without him knowing. In his house, his wife and daughters were like in the next room. He fucking slipped Molly in his drink. Bert is on like heart medication and stuff. He almost died. He had to go to the hospital. Ari did it on purpose. Like he went there with the intention to do this. So it was this whole thing. And I was like, holy shit. Like I didn't like Ari before. He didn't seem like a good guy, and he's not funny.
Yeah.
After like a couple months, they all had a podcast about it. Joe, Bert, Tom, and Ari. They all sat down and were having a podcast, and they started talking about it. And this was a few years ago now. And this was the last time I listened to that show. And it was because during the episode, they start bringing it up. And Tom is like silent the whole time. You could tell he's just so fucking upset. And Bert is Tom's best friend.
Yeah.
And Tom is just basically, and they're talking about it. And then at some point, Ari starts going like, well, I didn't want to do this fucking Sober October thing, and you make me do it. And nobody's saying like, you're a grown man. You don't have to do this. Like, you're electing to do this. And then also, whether you want to do it or not is not grounds for you drugging and almost killing a man in his house with his family next to him. Nobody's calling him out on it. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? This is awful. Like, they almost killed this guy. And then at a certain point, Joe and Ari both start like blaming Bert for what happened. And you can watch the show on YouTube. You can literally watch this man's heart break on camera because his friends are blaming him for trauma that was inflicted upon him. It was fucking horrifying. And I was just like, you know what? Nope, I'm done. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. And that was like 2 or 3 years ago. And yeah. And then shortly after that was when like he got the Spotify deal for whatever it was, 100 million or 300 million or whatever it was. Yeah. And there does seem to be, and then COVID happened, and then Joe started talking about like, California's taking our freedom away, so I'm going to move to Texas, a state where they ban books. Like, and then for some reason I have freedom there. There seems to, and then like all of his friends started moving there too, which I was like, that's fucking weird, man. It's like super culty, and like, because they all, like I said, Joe put them on, so they all have like a loyalty, which I get, but nobody's calling him on anything, and yeah, it just started. Oh, like this is like a cult. Like they don't know it, but nobody's holding him responsible for shit. They're all doing what he says, even if he doesn't tell them to do it. They're just doing it.
Right.
Yeah, and then now he's like super not anti-vax, but super anti-COVID vax, and he's fucking telling people not to get vaccinated, and yeah, it's like he said, like I've heard him, say dumb, ignorant racist shit, not like aggressive racist shit, but ignorant racist shit a lot in the past. So like this thing that came up with that episode where he was saying that like, oh, I went to a movie in a black neighborhood and I was in Planet of the Apes. And then he says the N-word a bunch of times in that show too. And then like his apology was not an apology at all. Did you hear it?
I did. I have listened to a couple episodes of his podcast. I've watched more clips on YouTube.
Yeah.
Than listening to actual full episodes. And the opinion that I formed of Joe Rogan is that, just like what you said, like at least from what I saw, like he seemed to be a guy. I mean, he's very into that broness.
Yeah.
But he also seemed open to learning new information.
Totally.
When he had a guest on talking about whatever, and he would and the one, like he would have guests that were, left wing, right wing. Like he's had some crazy fucking guests from both sides of the spectrum. I never once in listening, and again, like my experience listening to him was not all that much, but I never got the sense that I would say that, oh, this guy's a racist.
Right.
He's just a guy who's got a show, brings on guests. He talks to them. They will introduce, a theory or whatever the fuck, whether it's, someone crazy far to the right or crazy, or left, whatever. And he would just be there to listen and to kind of gauge their questions. But again, like that was, like my experience with him is very, very small.
Yeah.
Him having all these guests on, his whole, like my opinion of him changed when he got COVID.
Yeah.
And because I knew of his platform and his reach and how it's like he's got like the most widely listened to podcast
in the world.
Yeah. And he, when he got COVID, he was talking about how he's doing, hydrochloroquine and basically everything other than just getting the fucking vaccine.
Ivermectin and
Yeah. And it's like, dude, it's like, you are influencing a lot of people here. And him, Amir was the first guy to tell me about Joe Rogan and how he was going to leave LA to go to Texas because it's like the Wild West over there. Like they don't give a shit about, COVID or all that. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. Well, that was like clue number one.
Yeah.
So yeah, long story short, like his whole, I haven't heard enough of. Well, I guess he is anti-vax because I don't even know if he's been vaccinated. But
I seriously doubt that.
yeah, but his like that to me was like, okay, now you're just spitting out falsehoods.
Yeah.
About the vaccine, and you have a lot of people listening to you who listen to you about things that you're not a doctor. We always talk about this. I'm not a doctor, you're not a doctor. There are people who spend their entire careers and lives working on a thing. When it comes to medicine, like Fauci and all that, like these guys who that is their whole career, is trying to figure out these pathogens and what we can do to safeguard ourselves. And so to have a guy like Joe Rogan out here who has the bandwidth that he does, spouting out nonsense.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, come on, man. Like you've got the pulpit. Like you've got a lot of people listening to you.
Yeah.
And they're hearing you, and you're not a scientist. You know nothing about, and he, it's not that he says that he is.
Yeah.
But that's not even the point. Because again, people are people, and a lot of people are stupid, and they kind of fall into the cult of everybody's personality.
Right.
It's like the same thing with Trump. He's a celebrity. Like, well, Joe Rogan did this. Like, he must know.
That's right.
And it's like, no, Joe Rogan don't know shit about when it comes to the science. And so that
Joe Rogan or any rich person, or especially a rich celebrity, like when you have hundreds of millions of dollars behind you, you can afford to be an idiot.
Yeah.
He can fly in the best doctors in the world if he needs. He can fly to the best doctors in the world on a private plane or helicopter, like at a moment's notice. He can afford to make the worst decision.
Yeah.
You who have fucking whatever, like bills piling up on your counter or fucking acoustic ceiling, you can't afford that shit. Whoever you are listening, like you fucking can't afford to live the way he's living because he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And you can't. And he's in the 1%. Like that's what people don't understand. Like there seems to be a dollar amount that people hit where they turn very right wing. I don't know what it is, but there's something there.
Well, it's when your money, like you just said, when you have so much wealth that you're safeguarded.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Right.
You got a medical emergency, forget COVID. It could be anything.
Yeah.
You're getting the best treatment.
Yeah.
If it's COVID, you're getting the best treatment. And it's not anything you have to go out of your way. Like it's not going to bankrupt you. Like you have
if your house burns down, you can just buy another house. Like that's how wealthy.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, man, I agree. And then like, his whole thing about like, well, you just got to work out and be healthy. And I'm like, yeah, sure. That's true for anything. Like that's his big argument against the COVID information now is like, why aren't they pushing being healthy? And I agree that like
I do too. And that's the thing. That's the thing with him is that he's misinformed in a lot of ways. But it is true. It's like, and there are doctors who are saying it's like, look, COVID, you can look at the numbers. Like it does. You're much more susceptible to really suffering the ills of this virus if you are overweight.
Totally.
If you are of a certain age. So that is there. And honestly, I think the administration, whether it was, when Trump was in office and fuck him, or even now, like I think if you're going to try to tell people, like, yes, there is a vaccine. Everybody should get it.
Yeah.
I've got my 2 and I'm boosted. As have you.
Same, yeah.
But it also is a thing where it's like, look, this thing really is attacking people.
Yeah.
If your health is not good, it's just making it worse for you. And I do think that the government should push that.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, that is not the catch-all.
Yeah.
It's not the only thing.
Yeah.
It's just
healthy
a thing.
people get it and healthy people get fucked up from it too.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, having good nutrition or at least semi-decent nutrition and daily exercise helps with every single thing. Doesn't matter what it is. Like, number one recommendation for depression, anxiety, stress, fucking heart, this and that, joints, this and that, muscle is diet, nutrition and exercise. Like, yes, of course. But that doesn't mean anything. That it's like, it's weird. And most people do, I guess, but like to go like, well, you just got to work out and be healthy. It's like, no, man, that's not it at all. And it's not just about you. What about other? You can have it, be asymptomatic.
Exactly,
as a healthy person, be asymptomatic and just spread the motherfucker. So I heard him. I just saw this segment of the show, and it was like I saw the conversation that led up to it, and after, it wasn't like edited to make it sound like this. This is what the conversation was. He was talking to a woman. I don't know what her background was. And I don't know what episode it was. You can find it. He was talking to this very attractive woman, and they were talking about like the lockdowns in Australia, and they were saying like, yeah, they can't go out at all. They have a curfew and they have to be locked in, and it's fucking bullshit. They're taking away their, like they were saying, like they're taking away their freedom, and they're like, bring up the, Jamie, his little producer guy. He's like, pull up a number of deaths in Australia, and it was like 8 people, and they were like kind of joking, like, it's only 8 people. Like, it's like, that's 8 people, man.
Yeah,
8 people died. Like, that's, what the fuck.
And also, 8 people.
8 people.
8 people.
Thank you. So he was.
What is our death count for COVID in this country?
1 million. We're approaching 1 million.
Yeah, we're getting close. Yeah.
So he was literally arguing the efficacy of something with the proof that it worked, or he was arguing against it with the proof that it worked.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're a fucking moron. Like, this is not misinformation. This is, you don't understand. The reason they have only 8 people is because they're locked down.
Yeah.
Like, how does that not make sense?
Because they did what was necessary. It's the same thing like Australia. What was it? New Zealand. Also,
yeah,
went the same way, where they locked. It's like no one's coming in.
A bunch of
no one's going out.
Taiwan had like really low because they were just like, yeah, fucking stay inside, wear the mask. They're a mask culture anyway. Like, it's Asian countries. It's like, yeah, you get sick, you put a mask on. Like, that's not
standard operating procedure.
That's not weird. So yeah, like, so now my opinion of him has been plummeting, because it's like, fuck, dude. Like, I know you're inherently probably a good person. I still believe, like, yeah, you're a very generous person and you have a ton of life experience, and that's all great. But that doesn't matter when your influence on the world is now very harmful. It's like Kanye West. It's like, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of great things about you, but you are making the world a worse place with your behavior now. And like, you're in a position, I feel like Joe Rogan behaves as if he's still just a comedian doing a podcast in his garage, because he started podcasting.
That's
at the
thing.
Beginning of podcasts. Like, when they started, he was like one of the first guys. So it's like, he still thinks or behaves like, oh, it's just me in my basement. And it's like, no, motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's not you in your basement when you got fucking Elon Musk on your show.
Yeah, it's like you were now influencing a large swath of the population. And yes, your show might have started out, which is you doing your show from your basement. But it's like, again, like, I was surprised to find out that he had the viewership that he has. It's like the most listened to podcast in the fucking world. Yeah, is yours.
Yeah,
and with that comes responsibility.
100%.
It just does.
It just does. That's absolutely right.
And I'm with you. Like, I don't think Joe Rogan is a bad man at his core. I really don't. And like, I saw his video where he was apologizing about his use of the N-word, and I thought that it was sincere. I really did. And I like that he even said, he's like, look, anytime someone accuses you of being racist, and then it's like, that's never a good, and he said this, and I'm saying this, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically was like, look, anytime you get accused of being a racist, and then that's on you, you kind of have to realize, it's like, well, fuck.
Yeah.
What have I done to even have that accusation leveled at me? And I give him credit for that, but I think, for him, like, he just needs to realize and understand his reach, and what he is saying matters to a lot of people, whether he thinks it's just bullshit and like, I'm having my friends on and we're talking about whatever. It's like, bro, you've got a lot of people that listen to you and think that whatever comes out of your mouth is gospel.
That's right.
And with that comes responsibility that you need to be aware of.
Yeah. Especially for him, like, he talks so much about like the way society works. He's very well aware of how that shit works. Like whoever is the most popular is going to be seen as that they're delivering truthful information. Like he knows that's how it works, whether he likes it or not. Like, and like I don't think he's a racist person either. I think he's the type of racist that is just an ignorance. It's not racist.
Right. He just doesn't know.
Ignorant. Yeah. It's
ignorant. Yeah. He's just ignorant about a lot of things.